Lockerbie bombing in, I think that was 98. In the Guildford bombing, 65 people were injured. I think 5 people were killed in a bombing of a pub that was known to be host to a lot of military personnel. The 4 suspects that were ultimately convicted were later found to have been convicted on erroneous or rather, well, bad evidence. The confessions were found to have been unreliable, and the prosecutor had actually withheld material that should have been disclosed, all because of that pressure, that wanting to get a conviction in a situation. So it is not something that any jurisdiction can ever really escape from, but the way that you start to mitigate the risk of corruption is to build in accountability, layers of supervision, layers of authority that is required for the making of certain decisions. And in the police, in any institution, why do police or any other individuals tend to go in for corruption? Is because of money. And so it's largely because of money, looking at the way that these people are paid, how they're promoted, how they are moved around from one station to another. Are they under pressure to do certain acts in order to stay comfortable where they are, or are they going to be sent off to some remote station in the back or beyond if they don't comply? All of those things are management issues, performance competency issues, and things that have to be looked at very closely. But as I say, we could be here for 3 days, 5 days, 10 days discussing that.
And just to piggyback off what Shamini just said, one of the other requirements in the U.S., which I think is really important to emphasize, is that all attorneys, which includes prosecutors, have ethical responsibilities and ethical standards that are set by each of the bars that we're admitted into, as well as each of the organizations. So that also adds another layer of protection, is that if you violate an ethical duty, then there is a possibility that you lose your license and you lose your livelihood. So that's a really good incentive against engaging in any corrupt activity.
Thank you, Tomika. Juma, may I kindly ask you to please the mic, to be very, very brief, because the tea is getting cold, and the gentleman and the ladies out there want to please.
Thank you. Just 3 things. I think one is to respond to my senior, Bwana Hussein, my senior in the movement. That's what we say in civil society. In the process of coming up with a decision to charge, I think this was one of the issues. Where are we getting examples from? And the reason that informed the decision to look into the direction of US-UK was the fact that our laws, the structure, the enabling structure for the policies, are heavily adapted from the UK, from the Commonwealth and the common law jurisdictions. And so it would easily, getting best practices from them would easily align with our laws. But also, as I said, there was a lot of, customization of this. And I think there's a lot of provisions that were removed. You go into a focus group discussion with prosecutors, and the first question they say is item 1.2.3. That one cannot be in this, And so that also happened to try and make it respond to our needs. But broadly speaking, the criminal justice system needs a revolution, as we would say. There's a lot that needs to change for us to be able to have a very customized version of some of these policies. I hope that answers. The other thing is Kenya is not very badly off, and so we don't borrow so much from the rest of the countries that don't have maybe a constitutional dispensation as ours, but we try to look up because we are somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Then on this decriminalization of petty offenses, that is something that is overdue. We need to do away with these offenses from the criminal justice system. So the idea is for us to deal with them administratively in a way that does not waste prosecutorial or judicial time. I'm of the position that when a traffic offender, for example, who's willing to plead guilty is taken to court, that is a waste of both prosecutorial and judicial time. And we need to do something about that. Finally, here in Mombasa, the projects that I lead in IJM touches on issues of sexual offenses against children. And in the last 10 months, when we've been working here, it's crazy. The numbers are crazy. I think Mr. Hassan will bear me witness. In some court stations, we have as high as 10 cases being registered every morning of children having been violated sexually. It could be incest, it could be defilement, and other forms of sexual violation against children. And the issue with this, I think in Kilifi, we sit in that CUC, and at some point in June, July, the cases that had been filed, of the cases that had been filed between January and June, we had a figure, a percentage of 66% of cases being cases that involve sexual crimes against children. Now, there are two aspects to it. The case type that we try to address out here is child sex trafficking. And for that to happen, there's a supply side and there's a demand side. Now, the supply side is informed heavily by culture and a lot of the practices, from old. I'm not saying the practices encouraged, but the perpetrators use these practices to justify the crime. So you have children who are dealing with trauma, and when you're dealing with trauma, you're very easily susceptible to re-victimization. And on the other side, we have tourists, for example. We have domestic and international tourists who come to the coastal region purposefully to target some of these children for sexual purposes. And so they bring money and other aspects of value into that abuse. And what that does is that it encourages it. And so the normalization of it has made it so bad that something drastic needs to be done about it. And I think together with Mr. Hassan, Mr. Mulama, Mr. Jami, and the team out here, and the likes of Haki Africa that have been here for very long, these are some of the things we are trying to see how we can address in the next few years in a way that is impactful for the long term. Thank you.
Mr. Mule, you have 30 seconds.
I think a question was asked whether the decision not to charge is appealable. In Kenya, if we make a decision not to charge, there are options available. The first one is you can make an application for private prosecution. There are conditions which you must meet before you undertake private prosecution. You can go to court for an order of JR, judicial review, through mandamus to compel the DPP to charge. Again, there are conditions which you have to satisfy the court. Or you can even appeal through a simple letter to the DPP and tell the DPP, please review this decision not to prosecute because of the following reasons. And you give reasons, and the DPP is always amenable to review. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, our panelists. I'm sure we have more questions, but unfortunately time will not allow us to ask. But please feel free to ask them. You can side bar them. They are here. Let's make use of them. There's one thing, though, which I wish perhaps to mention that might explain why there is a very high number of plea bargains in your jurisdictions. For me, I think it's because the prison facilities there are fairly habitable. Whereas here, when we tell these people that instead of going in for 10 years, we can plea bargain so that you go in for 4 or 5 years. And the man says, you want me to go and die in these prisons? So they would rather take their chances with the trial. And until we improve our prisons, we'll still continue to face these challenges. So as members of the Fourth Estate, why don't you put pressure on those who are supposed to build these prisons to have better prison facilities? Sawa sawa. Maybe you can help us to, if you keep on writing about this day in, day out, somebody somewhere perhaps will wake up and say, we are going to build new prisons. Because the prison facilities that we have are the ones that were built before independence. So when we talk to them, they will tell you there's no way. You want me to go to Shimolatewa for, even if it is 2 years, there's no way I'm going to accept that. So it becomes difficult for us to convince them that that is perhaps the better option than to go in for 15 years. So ladies and gentlemen, you can help us perhaps to put up new prisons. It's time now to go for tea. And from there, I don't know, are we resuming in the afternoon? There is one session for Madam Grace Murungi here. So can we agree that we come back at 12:15, please? Because we can take our tea, by the way, and come back with it here. Let's stretch a bit, smoke for those of us who are smokers, and then quickly come back with our tea and snacks, and then so that we allow Madam Grace Murungi to talk to us about service charter and oversight. Tumekubaliana? Please, we can still have our tea here. Let's just stretch for about 10-15 minutes, and then we resume at 12:15. Otherwise, thank you so much for your engagement this morning. We'll look. Of course, I have to thank the panelists. How do you want me to thank them? By clapping. Who can lead us into appreciating our panelists this morning? Watu wa magazeti. Nani asimame tupatie appreciation mzuri kwa panelists wetu? Dennis. Huh? Hussein is, although Hussein, we know, we'll get him in the afternoon for that man-women thing. Tabitha. Or somebody from the fourth estate, please. Madam has volunteered. Thank you so much.
All mine is to say thank you very much for the panelists, Tomika, Shamini, and Agri. Taking those questions and responding to them, I know is not an easy feat, but you've managed it. We really do appreciate. I believe we still have questions, and we shall channel them to you in the little moments that we shall have when we are having the tea. So kindly just feel free to be communicating and responding to our questions at all levels and at all times. We are not bad people. We are just here to inform the public. So in the event that you feel you are aggrieved from us, we don't mean bad at all. So just give us more information, correct us where you feel that we are failing, and together we shall inform the public. Thank you so much again. God bless you.
It is rare to get this kind of praise from the fourth estate. I'm saying so because recently the press fraternity in this region decided to have a short farewell party for the judges who were sent on transfer recently. I don't know whether some of you attended. I was also invited and I went there. I can tell you this, as I was seated with the judges there, they were wondering, what are these people up to? Because in all the years that we have been working, we have never been called to any function by the press to tell us thank you and kwaheri. So we were all wondering, maybe there was a catch somewhere, you know, and most of them, when they spoke, they were saying, this is a first. Nowhere has the members of the press sat down to organize a party, a farewell party for the judges. And of course, the judges were wondering, were saying, I don't know, there must be something not right somewhere, because the way they write stories, but it was a good beginning. Yes, yes. Now we can go for the tea.